So on today's show, I want to talk about investing in real estate. So as most of the listeners know of this show, my wife and I, we own 20 rental properties, but we went on a pretty good run in 2020. We bought 16 properties like fairly quickly. It was a very interesting, 17, 18 months. I actually want to go back and look at that and see what the exact dates are. So, I'm being straight on that, but that's what it felt like. So as I went through that journey, I had a lot of my past clients and I had other realtors reaching out to me on social media because I'd post my journey, right? I'd post my journey of buying these places and people would hit me up and they would say, "Hey, I want to buy a property," or "How did you buy those properties?" But I would get a lot of messages or text messages from my past clients and say, "Hey, I want to buy another property. How would I do this?" So I started getting this conversation or I started getting this message so often that I would get on the phone and have about a 30, 45-minute conversation with my clients. And so I made a note on my phone and just put together an order of what they would have to do. And so there was 8 things that I wrote down. It was the eight steps to buying rental properties. Now, in each one of these steps, there's, you know, great details that we could go over. So that's why I think one day I'm going to make this a class. But for this podcast, I'm just going to go over the 8 steps, some very basic things in each one of those steps. And then, hey, maybe one day here in the near future, I'm going to have a class that I can invite you guys to. But this will give you just 8 simple steps. And I say simple because they truly are simple. Now, meaning like the whole order of what to do. So when someone says, "How do I buy a rental property or an investment property?" It's these 8 things. And there's sometimes where you're going to get stuck on a certain stage because you don't know what to do next. And we'll go over that. So step one is have a goal. Like that's exactly what I tell somebody when they say, "How do I buy investment property?" They say, "What's your goal?" And the biggest thing I'm hearing anymore is, or the biggest thing I'm seeing now is I just got this probably twice last week. I had someone tell me they wanted to buy an investment property. And I asked them specifically, my first question is, especially when somebody's younger, I'll say, "Hey, do you own a primary property?" And on both these scenarios, the answer was no. So it's okay. You don't own a primary property. What's going on right now? What do you do? Do you rent? And they're like, "Yep, I rent." And I was like, "Okay, go buy a primary property. Like that is going to be one of your best future investment properties is going to be that property. So just go do that." But it's interesting how, the sexy thing sounds like, "Oh, let's go buy investment properties." But it's like, no, like go buy a primary property first, secure that because those are going to be some of the easiest properties that you can acquire because you don't need that investor down payment and you're not getting that investor rate. So get a primary. But one, have a goal. And so whether it be 1, 2, 20, or 40. So why my wife and I believe that we have so many rentals is we had a goal that we wanted to get to 20. And it was very clear. It was a mission. I knew how many homes I had to sell to get the profits to buy these properties. So this was broken down in detail. So you got to have a goal. Like, why are you doing this? And the reason why I wanted 20 was because I knew what the cash flow roughly would spit off from those 20 while I had mortgages on them. And then I knew when those were paid off in the next 15 to 20 years, what that cash flow would be like without mortgages. And that was something that I wanted to do for my retirement. So you got to have a goal. So step 2, talk to a lender. In real estate, I'm always talking to clients and I'll have people who will tell me, "Oh, well, I'm not, I don't really want to talk to a lender yet. Might not be buying a house for 6 months to a year." And I'll tell them, "Hey, if you're within a year out of buying a house, I would talk to a lender. A good lender is going to consult you, game plan with you." And so that's the exact advice that I give somebody who's looking for an investment home. Unless you're buying the property cash, I would say you need to talk to a lender. And so someone might say right now, "Hey, like I don't know if I'm going to be buying a property for another year, 2 or 3." Why you need to talk to a lender is because this comes down to debt to income ratio. How much do you make? Credit score. There's a lot of factors that you want to go into things proactively, and you've got to have this set up. So, for example, the 16 properties, 16 of our properties are in Oklahoma. And when I decided to make that move, and I won't go into detail on why we did or why we purchased in Oklahoma, my wife and I did a podcast probably about 6 months ago on our investing journey. You can listen to that one on why we selected that state specifically. But whenever I knew I was going to buy a property there, I had to talk to a lender. Now, we decided that we were going to buy a lot of properties. So I was in constant contact with that lender in Oklahoma I mean, between her and the underwriters talked for probably 17 months on a pretty consistent weekly basis, if not every other day. We were on the phone with each other or via email, making sure that everything was squared up. Because, like I said, I had to make sure between my income and debt to income ratio, I had to get my CPA involved, sometimes my lawyer involved. Like, I needed to make sure that I had a clear path to buying these properties. And since a lender is the one giving me the money, I just had to make sure that everything was okay with them in order to complete this mission. So step one, goal. Step two, talk to a lender. Get that squared up. Decide what you can do, how you got to start doing things. And now step three is acquire money. So those down payments. So the one thing that I get often from people, and this is where most people stop. I'd have to say if there was one spot that's the hardest, it's acquire money. Most people think that I did some type of, sub two to buy these properties or creative financing. So when they hear that there was 20 to 25% down on most of these properties, that's what stops most people. And when I'm talking to my past clients, that's what can stop them a lot too, is like, oh, okay, so if I was buying a house here in Arizona, I might need, $90,000 for a down payment for an investment property. And I'm like, yep, that's it. So, that's why you can see where I say like buying primary properties, it could be the easier path because you don't have to put that 20, 25% down. You don't have that investor rate. So that's why that can be an easier path for some people. But you've got to acquire the money. Now, here's the deal. Go listen to people if you want to on sub two and creative financing, because there are many, many people out there that their expertise is this. This is not mine. I'm actually going down this journey right now to see how to do this better, or how to learn how to do this. Really just how to learn how to do this. And I've reached out to a few friends that I know that do it, but acquire money. So if you're not looking for sub two, creative financing, seller financing, you're going to have to actually pony up and bring the cash to the table. So on these 20 properties that I have, that's what I had to do, is acquire the money. Now, when I'm talking to some people, that's where they stop. They say, well, I don't have an extra 40, 80, $100,000 for a down payment. And as you guys know, if you've listened to the show long enough, I am one that's just, you got to get after your goals. So now what do? If your goal was to go acquire that for a reason, because you wanted enough cash flow to quit your job, or you wanted to have enough at retirement so that you could live a comfortable life, there's a fork in the road, and you've got to decide what to do next. You get to that step now and you're like, nope, can't do that. Never going to be able to do that. That's only for some people. Or do you get at that fork in the road and you decide, okay, this is now where I've got to find, do I need to go get a job that pays me better? Do I need to get a side hustle? But that acquire the money part is what stops a lot of people from living a super cool life. And I want to say, press on, start thinking and figuring out what you can do to make more so that you can go live that life that you want to live. So once you have the money, step 4, analyze the deals. Now, this is where you've got to start learning how to analyze deals. And so that's where, if you listen to other podcasts on investing, they'll say while you're going on this journey of acquiring the money, let's say that might take you a year, 2 or 5 to acquire this money, you need to be analyzing deals. And so what analyzing deals looks like is you've got to know, is this a good deal? And everybody's got a different goal on what they're trying to accomplish. I talked to some investors and they don't really want any cash flow. As long as the house, makes a little bit of money to pay for repairs and kind of maintain itself, they're good. And most of those people that are buying that way are buying in states like, I have some houses in Arizona, and those were huge equity plays. So you didn't need as much cash flow out the gate. You knew you were going to get huge equity plays, and that those properties were most likely over the next 30 to 40 years going to be significantly higher, which they are. And then that's the analyzing that type of situation. There's also people who want cash flow, like they want to get out of their job. So let me explain this again. So there's people who might have a really, really good job and make a really good income, and cash flow is going to be very hard to replace for them. So they're looking at buying investment properties more as a way to park their money. They already have a good income. They already got like what they would consider a good job that pays them well. So they're more of using it as an investment strategy to park money like they would the stock market, 401k, things like that. So maybe they're buying in, states where the appreciation might go up a lot over the years. Then you've got some people that I talk to that, they don't necessarily like their job and they don't make a significant income where they're looking at it like they want to just trade. Like if I could get enough cash flow from these properties that I buy, that I would quit my job. So you got to know what you're doing. So for example, my specific situation is I have homes in Arizona and I have homes in Oklahoma. Oklahoma, those ones cash flow, quite a bit. So do my Arizona ones just because of the time of just when I bought them. And so, but right now, if I was going back if I was going to go buy a property next week and I had to look at Arizona or Oklahoma, I mean, Arizona would probably just break even, if not be a little bit negative now, unless I really search for the right deal. But there were times when I was just purchasing properties off the MLS, paying fair value. I mean, most of the properties in Oklahoma, I actually paid over list price on those because I knew the interest rates were so low that I just wanted to acquire those properties because I pretty much knew today was coming where interest rates were going to be higher and houses were going to be inflated and things like that. So analyze deals. You've got to figure out how to crunch numbers on these. So what you'd want to do is simple right here. Like I said, I'm going to teach a class one day where we'll go into detail, but for now, just look at a mortgage calculator. So if you go online, right, like let's say you're using Zillow or Redfin to look at properties in a certain state, find out what those properties cost. In there, you just need to find out what your property taxes are, and you need to know with your lender what your interest rate's going to be. Then you can start playing with a mortgage calculator. Like, okay, this property is $200,000. Property taxes are, $1,200 a year. So that's $100 a month. And then you got to put in a mortgage calculator and say, if I'm putting this much down, then this is what my loan's going to be. My interest rate's going to be whatever. And you find out what your payment's going to be. And then now you got to start looking online on different websites and finding out what are rent prices for those types of properties in that area, and find out where your cash flow is. But you got to figure out how to analyze deals. Number 5, purchase the property. Like straight up, you just purchase the house. So now that you have the money, you've analyzed the deal, you've got to actually buy the property. Now that can be very worrisome for some, is actually purchasing that property. And you just have to do it if you feel like that's the right deal. You park your money there and then you decide later, did that work out? Did that not? But purchasing the house is the next step. So you want to find a realtor in that state. So if you guys are listening and you're looking in Arizona, call me. I'm a realtor, own a real estate business here in Arizona. I can help you out. So I could help myself out in Arizona. When it was in Oklahoma, I found a realtor there. That's the realtor that I used on all 16 properties of mine. But she's somebody who had the local knowledge that I needed, had the connections, and made my life so much easier. She was a huge blessing in my life. She still is, but you want to make sure that you have a good real estate agent to purchase that house. So step 6, screen the tenant. Now you've purchased the house and you've got it ready to go on the market. This is the conversation that I see that stops a lot of people from buying investment properties. And it's really not, but it's what they say. So when I'm talking to people about rental properties, they'll be like, well, I mean, I've heard that you might get a tenant that's, sketchy, or you might get a tenant that, ruins the property. And really they're like, so I'm not investing in rental properties because, I've heard that it's really hard. And what you find out is they probably would buy rental properties. They just don't have the funds to do so. So it's really that conversation. And this is where we're going with it. But you've got to screen the tenants. So if you go to a website called rentspree.com, you can put in your property in that website, and then you can check the box 2 different ways. You can say, I want the tenant to pay for the application, or I want the landlord to pay for the application. So we put our information in that website. We say that we want the tenant to pay for that application. It spits you off a link, gives you a link. And then when you post your property online, that's the link that the applicant would fill out. And then what it does is it gives you background check, credit check, rental check, basically like their previous rentals, and then it's their application. So you're going through this. So you just put this link in your advertisement. If they want to, rent the place, they fill out this application. I think it's like $50 or something like that. It comes to you instantly. You just review that and you decide, is this the tenant that I want? And There's a lot of different things that we could talk about at a later date, but screening the tenant is the next step. Now, property management, that's a huge one that I get. Now, I always property manage my own properties. Might make sense just because I'm a realtor and I'm in this business every day and I have, an office manager that does it for me. But up until about 4 properties, I manage that myself. And, when I first started, it was just a spreadsheet, Zelle me the money, Venmo me the money, that type of stuff. And that was just super, super simple, right? And as it scaled, after 4, I had my office manager take over and we run it through, if you go to Rent Ready, that's another website. So Rent Spree was the application process. That's the website you'll use. Rent Ready, RentRedi.com. I believe Rent Ready. That's a spot where you can do property management. So we have all of our properties in there. And what this does is when people move into the property, we send them a letter, a welcoming letter, tells them our process, how things are going to work. And Rent Ready is it's a form of where they can make their payment. So it's an app they can put on their phone. It's connected to that property. They can automatically pay their bill through that system. We get the money after they pay the bill through the app. I think the app takes $1 per property. That's how they make their money. So $1 for that property, they can pay through that. Now, also what's good is it's a place where they can upload any repairs that they need. So any kind of communication about that property, any repairs, they can upload photos. Well, when they upload in that app, an email goes to my office manager. So she knows, it's kind of like a portal so that, if you got 20 properties and people are uploading stuff in there, these emails then go to my office manager. It'll say the address. It'll have the photo that they uploaded. It's a portal or a hub where she can stay in one spot and keep this all together. But that's how we property manage these properties. It's fairly simple. So then the next thing someone asks is, hey, Chris, well, out of state, how are you handling property management? The hardest thing of property management is not collecting payment. It's not, getting the repair request from them. The hardest part of property management is going to be actually having the network of people, a handyman, a plumber, AC guy that can do the work. So, for example, like in Arizona, my properties that I already had that network because I've been selling real estate here. I've owned a real estate company here for many years, very well connected, have my network. Well, in Oklahoma, I did not. So knowing that I had a goal to acquire a lot of them, I knew where my clog or my problem was going to be in the future, and that was going to be in property management. And so when I flew out there, I had talked to a few other people, one, my realtor, right? But I talked to a few other people who owned a lot of rental properties, and I just got their networks. I asked them, hey, who do you use for your handyman service? Who's your painter? Who's your plumber? Who's your AC guy? And we put that in a spreadsheet. And so that's our network. So like that's really, if you think about it, like, for example, when people call me in Arizona, like let's say someone lives in Illinois and they call me like, hey, Chris, I want to buy a rental property, and I find a property for them and I do this for them. Right. And I analyze the property, tell them what I think about it. Will they buy it? And so why they have to get a property manager is, one, maybe they're busy and just don't want to do it. And that's fair. But a lot of times why they get a property manager is because they don't have that network of people. And so I just tell them, hey, I've got a network. So if you want to property manage that, if something goes wrong, just hit me up and I'm going to give you over who we would use. So that's property management. We keep it fairly simple. With having as many properties as we have, paying a property manager would probably cost us anywhere from $18,000 to $22,000 a year. Like I said, I already have a real estate office. I have, an office manager, an assistant. So between those people, they're already doing a lot of real estate for my clients. So they just take on that so that I can actually save that, $18,000 to $22,000 a year. And so that's where we've went with property management. Now, the 8th step is repeat. And when I say that, people are like, is that really the 8th step? And I'm like, yeah, because if you're trying to do this over and over again, that's all you do. So when people think, oh, I want to own 3 homes, or I want to own 10 or 20 or 40, they start thinking it's more complex than it is. And it's not. It's doing that process and then doing the process again and then doing the process again. It's just like we all, it's an analogy that I use a lot. It's like, because we can all relate to it, but like going to the gym, to get in really, really, really good shape. I mean, you're not usually going to the gym and doing anything crazier. You're just usually consistent and you're doing the same thing. Maybe you're lifting a little bit heavier And so in real estate, it's the same thing. Like, so when I say repeat, that's what you do. So when I purchased a property, then the next thing was, okay, let's look at the goal. The goal is to buy more. And now I need to talk to my lender. Now with this property, now that I own this property, let's talk about my debt to income ratio again. Let's make sure everything's good. Okay, now I got to make sure I got to acquire the money. And that was interesting, right? So when I said in a 16 to 18 month period, we bought 16 homes. We had to have these 20 25% down payments. And so when we went through this, it was like rinse and repeat over and over. I think we were buying a property every 5 to 6 weeks. And so I would close on that property and I would say, what's my goal? It's to own more. I would talk to the lender, make sure I'm set up. Hey, like this was my goal. We just closed on this one. I want to close on another one probably in the next 5 to 6 weeks. Is that good? She would say yes. Then I had to acquire the money. I had to go make the money out of the profits of my real estate company. I had to analyze deals. So my realtor would put things in front of me. I would decide if I wanted to buy it between her and I. We'd look at that. Then I had to purchase the house. I would do that through her. I would screen the tenant. My office would do that through Rent Spree, Property Manage. We would do that through Rent Ready, and then repeat. And that's really as simple as investing in real estate is. Now, like I said, out of those 8 steps, what stops most people from doing more is step 3, and that is acquire money. So if that's your biggest thing on why you're not investing in real estate, stop right there. And that's the only thing you want to figure out. If you're in real estate, sell more homes. If you're own another business, you got to make more profits. If you're working for a job like a salaried employee or an hourly employee and you don't make enough to do this, there's a fork in the road and you've got to decide, am I going to go down the next steps and find something that pays me more so that I can go live my dreams? Or am I done? Was just buying rental properties something that sounded like a goal, and now I got to this step and I can't do it, and I'm not buying rental properties anymore. Now, like I said, I want to make sure that everybody knows there are creative ways to do or buy real estate. I'm looking into those, like I said, more. And as I actually go down that journey, I'll teach it. But I don't like to teach things that I don't have experience doing. So I'm on my quest right now. Like I'm listening to podcasts on seller financing, sub-2. So I'm on that journey again where I feel like a student in the investing space. So I just want you to know that sometimes you can be teaching something that you feel like you're really good at. But then I get done with this. I'm getting on a flight right when I get done recording this podcast. I'm heading to Vegas and I'll be listening to stuff to learn how to be better or get better at a certain skill. So like I said, I always want to be a student in the day and a teacher in the day. That's always my goal. So that's the 8 steps to buying rental properties. I hope this helped. I'm going to have in the show notes a link to Brittany and I's our investing journey. We did a podcast, like I said, about 6 months ago on our investing journey. We went into detail more with my wife on there of the just process, the emotions. It's a lot more gritty on that podcast. This one was more of the steps. So I hope you guys all enjoyed the show today, and reach out to me. Let me know what your goals are in real estate. I am so like, this is a topic that I'm super passionate about. I love finding out from realtors and my clients what they're wanting to accomplish. And if there's any way that I can support you, please let me know. But hope you guys enjoyed the show today.